it's not a win for anybody. It's a miserable deal. Basically, the EU felt it had no choice but to accept the imposition, unilateral imposition by Trump of a 15% tariff. The alternatives were worse. Trump was threatening 30% tariffs on all EU exports. That would have led to a complete trade war, which the EU cannot afford to have, given the very tense geopolitical situation that the world faces. So the EU basically resigned itself to this 15% tariff.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, perhaps the most prominent advocate of that dreaded COVID passport, was out there advocating that we all have to have digital IDs because the future will be digital. You shouldn't have privacy, apparently. Yeah, that's what she believes. She claims that the IDs can be a real booster to emerging economies. The trick is to build public digital infrastructure, she said, that is interoperable, open to all, and trusted.
Welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. It's Sunday, which means we're going to take you all around the world with this week's top news stories, which include and are not limited to the fact that Trump has made a deal with Ursula the Witch von der Leyen and the EU. Now, the EU, and they're not exactly happy with the deal.
They're not really happy.
They're not happy times for them.
What do you call... You're not, so there's the European, there's Europeans, right? But that doesn't mean that everybody in Europe is actually in the European Union, right? Because Sweden is not.
Right.
And so what do you call the government entity, the citizens of the government entity known as the European
Union with the flag with the stars?
Do you call them EUers? EUers. What do you guys call them? Because they're a separate. It's a political entity.
It is.
Like you need a name,
right?
There's Europeans, but then not everybody in Europe is part of the European Union,
right?
So what do you call yourselves? No,
Unioners. Well, no, because that goes back. That harkens to like American history. I think that would be bad.
No, so you guys don't have a good name. I need a good name because this is Trump's making separate deals over there in the. Denmark and Finland and Scandinavia over there. I don't even know. I don't know if Denmark's in the European Union or not. I know that he had make a deal over Greenland and stuff. Like he wasn't dealing with the European Union on that. So,
here's the thing. So he still has to. Hang on, European Union. There we go. He still has to make deals with their countries. Not like the European. It's not like everything with a country goes through the European Union. Yes, Denmark is a member of the European Union as of 1973.
So, but Finland and Norway, I don't think Finland. Let's see if Finland and Norway are, because I don't think Sweden is.
Okay, if I'm going to type, you have to talk.
Okay, if she's going to.
I usually do the intro, so if I'm typing, I'm happy to do it.
You just started typing and talking.
Okay, is Finland? We'll do it together in the European.
Just put.
No, because you want it in the Union. I can't just say EU. Right? Yeah. Because that would be the Europe.
EU. No. Yes, Finland is.
Okay. So I think you might be wrong about a bunch of stuff here.
Norway
today.
And Sweden.
You're not invoking a lot of confidence in our ability to do world news.
I know it's one of them.
When you're missing some of these things right out of the gate. All right. So while Lee is looking up what countries are actually in or not in the European Union.
No. Sweden is. Norway is not. It's just Norway. Okay. There we go. It's just Norway.
Okay, so should we rewind and scratch that whole intro?
No, just keep
going. Because
going.
You kept saying Sweden is not.
I thought all the Vikings decided, we're going to be individuals. But you didn't. You're
I can
all
only
just
imagine
a bunch
the chat right now from
you're
people
all just
that
a bunch
already
of
knew
losers.
that.
Here's the thing, guys. You know, I saw somebody the other day
embarrassing.
say, I don't even care about Europeans. Guys, we don't learn anything about you people. Okay? We just watch Rick Steves. You have nice castles. All right? Even
can't
I've
wear
been
my
doing
hat
this
today. I got
show.
this
I've been
giant
doing
thing.
this show since 2017. I mean, how many member states are in the European Union? But like it's a, you know,
They don't, if they teach this stuff in public school, it's really just memorization. It doesn't sink in. Like nobody
cares.
really understands.
Why would you care?
But we care, and that's why we've been talking about the European Union, and we still don't know what the heck we're talking about for 8 years. Mm-hmm. All right, so also in this week's top world news stories.
Yes.
There is a march that took place in Manchester. It's huge.
Yeah.
In the UK. Mm-hmm. These marches, I'm always surprised at how
many people show up.
Okay, 100% that, and where do you park? Like it's the UK, so I don't understand how y'all get there. Mm-hmm. Are you transported? Is there some sort of like Star Trek thing I don't know about? Mm-hmm. I don't know how y'all get there, but no, I'm surprised at the amount of numbers that are then downplayed by the mainstream media.
Yeah, that's true.
This one, I don't think that it can be downplayed because the numbers are absolutely massive. Mm-hmm. And I really like that you guys do these marches. We don't, here in the US, we don't get, do you think it's the concentration of people in small areas? Because like we are not able to achieve the level of marches that take place around the world.
Yeah. So I saw,
I think we're just too spread thin.
Down in our little town of Milford, there was a little get together, all boomers, all white people, and it was anti-Trump because of his immigration stuff.
Right. So it's all white people for the immigrants.
It's funny. Like, because here's the thing. They don't want them here. They don't want poor people here. They don't want immigrants here. They do want them to do, you know, put their roofs on and then leave.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, it's actually embarrassing. So,
I want to talk about the tariffs because they went into effect. You want to go right into that? First or second. I'm helping you do your intro.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why I'm talking about the tariffs, I don't really have a full, like, book-ended view on these tariffs because number one, they're changing all the time.
Yeah.
Number two, I don't know exactly the motivation of Trump behind them. And if I knew, then that would help us a lot.
Yeah.
And there's so many different angles because there's a 50% tariff on Brazil because of what they're doing to Bolsonaro. So that's like a wild card as far as tariffs go, right? And then I got a clip from Rand Paul talking about how when it comes to Trump's legacy, he is going to be known as like a king with a kingdom who is not going through his Congress to essentially tax the people. Let's not kid around. These tariffs are taxes. And I was talking to the woman the other day. I think I told you guys I was talking to a neighbor, and we're talking about how prices were high and things were and she knew she's been watching us on a podcast. So she asked me, she goes, I do have a question for you. And I was like, okay,
we're ready. Ask away.
What do you think about the tariffs? Voted for Trump 3 times.
Right. She did. We didn't.
Yeah. She voted for Trump 3 times. She supports Donald Trump. She's watching Fox News, I'm sure. But she just doesn't feel right or understand the tariffs because there's so much mixed messaging. And there is so much mixed messaging because I'm going to play a clip.
You're going to answer the question.
I'm going to play a clip for you of a montage of a bunch of CNN, MSNBC people saying that these are great. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think I'm going to tell you my theory of what is happening. We're going to kind of go over the facts. And we need to understand that there are more things at play than just an American first agenda.
I would like to participate in this conversation.
Okay.
So historically, resistance chicks have been almost hands down pro tariffs. Okay. Meaning, when you look at the history of our nation, we didn't have to have the income tax, and property taxes were structured based on the way that your property produced, not just for living in your house. Mm-hmm. So most of the income for the United States came through tariffs. Mm-hmm. Love it. That's how it should be. Mm-hmm. It's a protectionist stance, though. Mm-hmm. It's not intended as much to make money as it is to protect what is already being produced in the United States. Tariffs, and you all know this, it's a tax that is put on any incoming goods that are already produced here in the United States. Okay, so if there's something that we can't produce here, no tariffs, right? So you're supposed to be protecting your people with this. Here's the problem. This is the rub. How do you get from where we are today and go backwards to where we were before? Because the transition can't be what Trump is trying to do, because we don't have that stuff anymore. Because a lot of what used to be produced in the United States in mass is now massively produced in other countries. So we're dependent on those other countries for goods that used to be highly produced here in the United States. And so prices are just skyrocketing because we have to have the things, and the infrastructure and the businesses are no longer here. They've dried up. Look at Detroit, Michigan. It's just not happening. And so what we're looking at is this complete crumble. You can't just say we're going to tariff. Okay, let me reword this and I'll finish with this. If the idea behind tariffs is to protect what's already being produced in the United States so that it doesn't go under, and yet you are then putting tariffs on something that's really hardly being produced in the United States at all, and we're dependent on it coming, it doesn't work that way. So that's why I have that's one of the reasons why I have a giant problem with the tariffs right now, because you are literally pulling the legs out from underneath of everybody. You know, so for those of you that know, we have an online store for our homemade products. I'm relying on packaging from China. And I'm not saying this because I couldn't care less whether I can't get my packaging, whatever, we'd figure it out. But the point is, I would love to be able to have this produced in the United States. I would pay extra to have it produced in the United States, but it's not there right now. So all it's doing is costing me more. And so the argument that Trump is making is make it more expensive, and that will incentivize businesses to pop up in the United States to make a 2 ounce bottle, glass bottle right here. Okay. But how long is that going to take? Rather than trying to do things that will give us the things that we need ahead of time, we're just left lurching. And the tax isn't really on the other nations, and that's the problem. The other nations aren't really paying it as much as they're just passing that cost on to you and me. So technically, this hardline stance that Trump is taking of tariffs, okay, I'm still going to get these bottles. They're going to raise the price. And I'm going to pay it. You're going to pay it, right? It's going to get passed along. So really, Trump is saying that he's taxing other nations and that we're getting in all this money from other nations, when really the extra tax is just coming from you and me. That's it. Full stop. So we're not there yet. There needs to be a better solution than what's happening. That's all.
No, that's really good. So in talking about Trump's tariffs, it's very hard to explain because they are all over the place. 4 months after Trump stunned the world and rattled global markets by unveiling Liberation Day tariff rates, his latest revisions announced Thursday, so he keeps revising, and it's really hard to keep track of, and set to go into effect in a week, sparked fresh global equity futures selling early Friday morning with an average tariff rate of 15%. The world now faces the highest U.S. levies since the Great Depression days of the 1930s, and these rates are roughly 6 times higher than they were 1 year ago and will certainly lead to further rejiggering of supply chains. The new tariff rates are set to take effect in just 7 days, starting at 12:01 a.m. And this article was written on Friday. So baseline 10% tariff will apply to imports from most countries. Here's what you need to know. 10% global minimum tariff imposed on all imports. Canada, the tariff was raised to 35% from 25%. Canada is sticking to its guns, and the Canadians are ready to just, stick it out and starve to death. I don't know. It's an interesting move there. But goods under the USMCA remain exempt. Switzerland, a tariff increased to 39% from 31%. Swiss officials criticized the change, citing divergence from prior draft terms. We're changing that. We're changing that. We're changing that. 40 countries, that would be the EU, imports face of a 15% tariff on the EU. Europeans are really not happy about this. 12 plus economies hit with even higher duties. China and Mexico, their deadline has been delayed by 90 days. So China put down their foot, and Trump said, okay, and went away crying with his tail between his legs, because you can't mess with Chinese goods, because everything you touch in your entire house virtually has a component that came all the way from China.
1,000%.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
It's terrible.
It's crazy to think about that. Nearly everything, almost every item in our home has had a component, whether it's a bottle or it has a component in it that came from China.
Right.
That's insane. That's insane, right? Okay. So there's a list here of the U.S. reciprocal tariffs by trade partners. There's the August 1st rate and then the August 2nd rate. Looks like we're going down there for Afghanistan. The Afghanis are getting a deal. Bangladesh. These are, wait, no. The list of U.S. reciprocal tariffs by trade partners.
So what you're explaining here, what I'm scrolling through here is on the right, if you're looking at your screen, is the rate of reciprocal tariffs that they had prior to this deal. So Trump's made a deal, and it's supposed to look like they've backed down. Switzerland did not. They doubled down. So the reciprocal tariffs went up for Switzerland and not down. Some of the places have stayed the same.
The multi-month wave of tariffs threats.
Like the Vietnam, the reciprocal tariffs that they had prior to this deal was 46. And
no.
Yes,
no.
Look at the date.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking that I had a little dyslexia. It looked like August 1st, August 2nd, but I see
2nd.
now
There
April
you go.
2nd. So yeah, those they should have it backwards.
It's a little confusing.
It's a little.
The orange
confusing.
is what it is now. The blue is what it was. So post Trump's deal, pre Trump's deal.
Those are down a lot.
They are down a lot. A lot of people are backing down.
All right, let's go to some of these videos here, and we'll try to explain what in the wide world of tariffs is going on.
The EU and United States have agreed to a sweeping trade deal on the eve of the August 1st deadline set by the US president. Donald Trump and the European Commission president announced the breakthrough on Sunday. The agreement will see tariffs of 15% on the vast majority of European goods. Though details remain sketchy, some industries are already emerging as winners as the EU managed to secure carve-outs for certain sectors. Ursula von der Leyen acknowledged that 15% is not to be underestimated, but she's said it's the best deal she could get. For more on the reactions coming in from across the bloc, here's Pierre Benazet reporting from Brussels.
There were positive comments. For instance, obviously the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, because this deal is going to be a blessing for the automakers in Germany, which heavily depend on exports to the US ever since the trade war with China is looming. The Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, said that it was positive, that it would bring stability, exactly the words that Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission's president, was using, predictability, stability. But Giorgia Meloni also said that the positive thing is that a deal was signed. And that's the main positive reaction in Europe, because, as you said, this deal is deemed unequal by the French European Affairs ministers. It is obviously far more than what most European countries were willing to accept. 50% is quite a lot, and it's going to cost the livelihood of many small and medium enterprise-sized businesses trying to export to the US. It will bring stability, yes, and predictability, yes, but it is far more than what used to be the case before Trump arrived. It's far more than what the Europeans managed to agree upon with Donald Trump during his first term at the White House. So this is not a very good deal, even if the Europeans have managed to have the non-tariff barriers still in place. For instance, VAT, that the Trump administration pretends it's not pretend it does not understand how it works. So it is a deal. At least there is a deal, and that's what we can say as of now.
At least there's a deal. I don't know that it's a great deal.
I don't know.
Next one?
Employment rate tick up to 4.2%.
Yeah.
me now live is Nomura chief economist David Seif on set with me, and Mainstay Capital Management founder, CEO, and chief investment strategist David Kudla. It's the Davids, so I will use your last names, and I will start with you, David Kudla. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in on a Friday in August, right? Summer Fridays. What is the real state of the United States economy?
Well, good afternoon, Lauren and David. I think the real state of the U.S. economy is this. You know, we've talked about this on the show about a stagflationary light economy. What do we mean by that? We've got 3% GDP growth in the second quarter. GDP now is around 2.1% on the latest read for the third quarter. We just got a jobs number that was very disappointing. The revisions are disappointing. So we have an economy that's okay. Some concern about the labor market.
I don't feel okay.
And inflation, our inflation read was a little hotter than expected. So we're calling this stagflation light. That's really where we think we are on the economy. Does it concern us a lot right now? No, it doesn't. And we think that with the prospect of the stimulus coming from OBBBA and the
So I'm stopping here. I just wanted you guys to hear. This is what the messaging is. When
this
they're
is the
not,
talking point.
Yeah, this is the talking point.
This is not what we're saying.
But if you back up, you have stocks tumble on tariffs, weak payrolls. There was a jobs report. I don't fall for any of this economy mumbo jumbo stuff. They act like it is the end all be all of life, like how the economy is doing. No, these are real people. I hate the word the economy. These are real people making real transactions, and you are willy-nilly going around making these kind of huge decisions based on people's lives and livelihoods. And when these guys are going on Fox News, who are supposed to be rah-rahing Trump and backing him up for the administration, they're saying, well, it's not really great. We're not really worried. That is them. They're actually screaming in the back, fire, fire, fire. But they have to have Trump come to the surface and say, hey, it's not a big, everything's great. Everything's great. So Trump is everything's great. These guys are like, it's okay. Behind the thing, they're saying it's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. The same thing that was happening going with Joe Biden. Trump, I don't know exactly what he's trying to do here. I think he's trying to pretend like somehow we can pay down 30 bazillion trillion in debt. That's not how this works, okay? This is not, you can't, what you're doing is you're trying to wring blood out of a turnip. The companies never, ever, ever pay. The countries don't pay. It's not like Bangladesh's government that isn't already taking taxes from its people is going to be paying the United States or whatever, okay? This money, it's not like the corporations, the bad guys, the people that you think have money. That's not, unfortunately, how these tariffs are going to work. But I just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of where the Trump people,
for the past couple of months, the U.S. has been trying
are kind of trying to play it like down. Like it's not
everything's
worried.
fine here.
It's just a little stagflation. The job numbers weren't so great.
We're not that worried about it.
Yeah.
To rush through bespoke deals with all of its major trading partners. This whole deal-making fiasco really kicked off after Trump's so-called Liberation Day on April 2nd, when Trump threatened massive tariffs on basically everyone. After panic in the financial markets, Trump announced on April 9th that the vast majority of the Liberation Day tariffs would be delayed for 90 days, sparking a rush to negotiate what the Trump team claimed would be 90 deals in 90 days. When this didn't happen, Trump extended the deadline to August 1st. And given that most of the countries on the Liberation Day list are still waiting on a deal, this deadline will probably be extended again. Nonetheless, we've now got enough deals on the table to get a sense of what Trump wants out of them. So in this video, we thought we'd take a look through all of the deals so far, and whether Trump is really winning the trade wars. Dive deep into the current state of America. Discussing our real thoughts is to basically threaten massive tariffs and then demand concessions from the other country in order to bring that tariff rate back down. And, well, this seems to have worked. Trump usually extracts some pretty eye-catching concessions, and while the final tariff rate comes in lower than he might have threatened, it's usually still pretty high by recent standards. With the EU, for instance, Trump threatened a 50% tariff rate, forced the EU Commission to make a whole load of concessions, including buying $750 billion worth of American energy products over the next 3 years, and investing $600 billion into the US, before settling for a 15% tariff anyway.
I need you guys to understand something. We're not going to gloss over this, but I'm going to leave this up. Trump is not negotiating for your mom and pop service person. Like, he is negotiating for Europe to buy $750 billion of U.S. energy. Do you understand who he is negotiating on behalf of? It's very small amount of United States citizens are in a position to sell energy to the EU. Okay? So, but those same very, very few people give Trump lots of these. And they want to recoup their investimento. Do you understand? Okay? This is not about American, like, farmers or little guys or all of you who take off work to go to a Trump rally. Because guess what? The energy guy is too busy trying to work the market to go to a Trump rally, but he will pay the $50,000 a plate to go to the Indian Hill dinner so he can shake a couple hands and be like, yo, Trump, I'm behind your tariffs. This is what we want from the European Union. Trump, do you guys wake up every day and be like, I'm thinking, Michelle, this is what I would really like to do. I want to make a deal. I would like my goods to be sold in Europe. So I would like to lobby the EU so that my stuff doesn't have a 15% tax. Name to me a ballpark, the amount of United States citizens that wake up every day thinking, man, I really wish that there were less tariffs on my goods going to Europe.
Yeah, I don't even have a figure for that. It would be so tiny.
So when people are saying Trump really worked great for the United States, it's not as if the United States government makes energy.
Right.
So then that would go to the rest of the people. This is it. We're not Venezuela. Venezuelans are get like a payout.
Everything that you just said, that's the most important. So let's highlight that and then we can finish this. But like, it's not like they're buying it from the U.S. government. It's not like the U.S. government is going to get this direct. Now, there will be taxes, right? You've got, income taxes or whatever. But these people find loopholes. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So essentially, Trump's not saying, oh, look, they bought it from the U.S. people.
Right.
They just bought it from some very rich
couple
American citizens or companies.
Thank you. So then, now, but we get cool things from Europe.
Yeah.
We get some Kerrygold butter, right?
We do. Yeah.
I go to Jungle Jim's. Jungle Jim's are really cool because it has it's the only store that I know of in any region that has products from every country.
Well, Trader Joe's. It's the equivalent of Trader Joe's. So Trader Joe's and Jungle Jim's are the same thing. Oh yeah, that's
never
what they
been
do.
In there.
Right. Well, because we don't have a Trader Joe's
Is
near
it big? Jungle Jim's is huge.
It's pretty big.
Okay. Well, Jungle Jim's is huge. And we go in and there's like a whole aisle for Poland.
Yeah, I think that Trader Joe's has the same stuff.
So it's really cool. Well, but I'm not usually going there to buy a lot of stuff. So let me just tell you. But here's the thing. This is my question. What are some of the things are IKEA pieces of furniture actually made in Sweden?
I think so.
And is IKEA going
because
to
a lot of the directions are in Swedish.
Yeah, they are. I can't read it though.
Right. Definitely. The way that they come in that box.
Yeah.
That American just didn't put that together.
Right. So let me explain something.
And Chinese didn't.
I'm going to explain something to you.
Do you want me to make this big?
See. No, it's okay. You're going to see. Because I'm pointing to this. You're going to see. You're going to see that the things that you might buy from Europe. Because here's the thing. Raise your hand if you're a Euro snob. In that, you would rather buy something from Europe than even certainly from China.
Oh, 100%. The one thing that I keep thinking of is the pasta that we buy. We have pasta from Italy that we buy that's from Italy that
it's going to be 15 cents more.
Love. Mm-hmm. Well, it's more than 15 cents on the dollar more.
It's 15%, so it'll be
15 cents on the dollar, but
15
the pasta's
cents on
not a dollar.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So 45 cents.
Yeah. So, but and you're right about the European pasta because we know that Italian flour
doesn't have the GMOs. It doesn't have the Roundup. All of that.
So I encourage you, if you don't buy if you're going to buy pasta, buy it all that's imported from Italy. It's not that much more expensive.
So for those of you that shop at Kroger or a Kroger affiliate, it's private. Mm-hmm. A lot of the private selection, sometimes you can get it and it'll be from.
Right. Exactly. So guess what? Those prices are just going to go up.
So we're going to pay it.
It's not like the companies are going to.
My pasta is going to cost me more pasta. It's going to cost me more money to buy the pasta. It's not going to cost Italy any more money to send me the pasta. It's just going to cost me more money to buy the pasta.
Yeah, exactamundio.
That is not a word in Italian.
Exactamundio.
Just say si.
Si.
That's what you get.
Okay.
15% is obviously lower than 50%, but it's still far higher than the roughly 4% average tariff that the EU was facing before Trump. This is why the deal has caused so much upset in Europe. Many European leaders apparently feel that the deal was essentially a lose-lose, because the EU still ended up with a higher tariff rate than they had beforehand, but they also had to make a whole load of expensive concessions. The deal with Japan, which Trump announced a week earlier, followed a similar pattern. Trump threatened a 35% tariff, forced Japan into making a whole load of concessions, including expansions of rice imports from the US and a commitment to invest $550 billion in the US, before setting it at a 15% tariff anyway. Again, from a certain perspective, this looks like a lose-lose for Japan, which might be why Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba waited until a day after the upper house elections in order to announce it. The deal with the Philippines went much the same way. Trump threatened a 20% tariff, the Philippines agreed to reduce tariffs on US imports and deepen military cooperation, and then Trump brought down the final tariff to 19%. With Indonesia, Trump threatened a 32% tariff. Indonesia agreed to reduce tariffs on US imports by $15 billion worth of American energy products and 50 Boeing jets, and Trump then brought the tariff rate down to 19%. In Vietnam, Trump threatened a 46% tariff. Vietnam agreed to reduce tariffs on US imports and take steps to limit transshipments, i.e. Chinese exports being rerouted via Vietnam, and Trump brought the tariff rate down to 20%. With the UK, Trump threatened a 25% tariff on UK car exports. The UK agreed to buy $10 billion worth of Boeing planes and accept new reciprocal trading rules for beef and ethanol, and Trump brought it down to a baseline 10%, albeit with a quota system.
I'm so confused. So he said that we made an agreement to buy Boeing planes. That's a very specific thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes. Who's lobbying? Who's getting out of this deal?
Idea then. From Trump's perspective, it looks like things are going pretty great. He's getting both massive tariffs and some pretty eye-catching concessions. Furthermore, so far tariffs don't seem to have hurt the US economy as much as economists expected them to. Inflation hasn't skyrocketed, and the US is still on track to outgrow its G7 peers. Exporters have also struggled to find alternatives to the US market, and so have continued to sell their products in the US despite tariffs. This allowed the US Treasury to rake in some serious revenues. The Treasury has collected an extra $20 billion in June, helping it to post an unexpected monthly surplus. Nonetheless, while it's true that Trump's tariff-centric deal-making is going better than expected, there are at least 3 caveats worth mentioning. The first is that while they might be eye-catching, it's not clear that many of these so-called concessions will actually happen. The European Commission, for instance, has already said that its pledges were merely intentions, noting that the Commission doesn't have the legal authority to direct private companies to buy from or invest in the US. Similarly, Japan has already pushed back against Trump's interpretation of the $550 billion pledge. Trump originally claimed that Japan was basically giving him $550 billion to invest in the US as he wanted. But Japan has since come out to say that A, the $550 billion figure is a maximum ceiling, not a requirement, and B, that only 2% will come from actual investment, with the remaining 98% coming in the form of loans or loan guarantees. Similarly,
so please don't let that go in one ear and out the other as we're listening to this. Essentially, what we're just being told by this young man, if you believe him, I kind of do, that a lot of the things that Trump is putting out on social media aren't true. They're a form of the truth. So when he says that Japan is going to invest $550 billion, Japan comes back and says, that's actually just a ceiling. That's the maximum that we're going to do. That's not a requirement. So just because Trump puts it out on Truth Social or on Twitter doesn't mean it's true. Again, the European Union has said that this the $600 billion investment that they have said that they would do into the United States is really just their intentions, because at the end of the day, they cannot force individual companies, because that's who needs to do it. It's not going to be the EU itself, but that does it. It's not going to come from like the EU coffers. They're not going to invest in the United States. They're just going to try to, incentivize people. This doesn't even make any sense.
Okay, so I went to Grok, and I don't really like using AI, but honestly, I have spent the past week really trying to find somebody who would give me some honest answers, and nobody's writing articles about the tariffs. And actually, before I do that, I want you to see the mainstream media and how they are talking about Trump's tariffs. This one, Michelle, this Twitter. Yeah. Thank you. This is why I am
leery.
Yeah.
Trade deal announced with the European Union. The Financial Times says the deal marks a victory for Trump.
Is this a fantastic deal then struck by Donald Trump?
Absolutely a victory on behalf of the Trump administration.
Isabel, the bottom line is this is the biggest trade deal in President Trump's effort to effectively reshape the global trading order.
On this deal, the European Union, this is a big win for the U.S.
The bigger picture is that Trump is still very much pursuing his longer-term goal of achieving what he perceives to be fairness for America.
It's a triumph of a lot of things. Certainly, the president ought to take a victory lap. I think it ends up being good for the European Union. It's a blow against the conventional wisdom.
Trade deal.
So I'm sorry, I have gigantic problems. I got big fat problems whenever the mainstream media comes out and says, "Yay, Trump, good job. Yay, Trump, you done did it. And this is good for the European Union. It's good for the United States. It's good for everybody." So when you see the mainstream media touting, "Go Trump, he did a good job," I'm going to step back and go, "Wait, what?" You know what I'm saying? No, you guys, you know better than this. Mm-hmm. We know better than this.
We know better. All
when
right.
you know better, you do better.
So what they decided was that Trump is a businessman and they wanted to use Trump to get better business deals. And so it's who's going to be on top at each given time. And I think that the tech guys went to Trump and said, "We will back and support you. You back and support us." So I asked Grog what specific goods would be hit with Trump's tariffs. Trump's tariffs implemented or proposed in 2025 target a wide range of imported goods, significantly impacting items Americans commonly purchase. These tariffs include a 10% universal tariff on everything, and 25% tariffs on goods from Canada that went up to 35%, and Mexico, but we're not doing that one yet. And this one, I started to ask, I said, I just want to know, will IKEA cost more for Americans? Yes. IKEA prices are likely to increase for Americans due to President Trump's tariffs implemented or proposed in 2025. IKEA sources a significant portion of its furniture and home goods from countries like China, which will have a tariff, Vietnam, which does have their tariff now, 20%, and Poland, actually, 20% reciprocal tariff, which are subject to the 10% universal tariff and the higher country-specific tariffs. Furniture, a major import category, could also see price hikes of 20 to 40% as retailers pass on tariff costs. For example, items like sofas, dining tables, and shelving units, which are among IKEA's top-selling products, are heavily imported, and industry reports indicate that companies like IKEA are already planning price adjustments to offset these costs. What's a price adjustment?
They're just going to hike it, so you got to pay it, man.
So then I said, well, shoes cost more. Yes. Shoes are likely to cost more for Americans due to President Trump's tariffs in 2025 because of the Vietnam tariff. Indonesia has the 10% tariff, and then major brands like Nike, Adidas, and Crocs, which rely heavily on these countries for production. So what's amazing is that these are American countries, but this is what happens. You offshore, and Trump is acting like, okay, God help me explain this to people. I don't actually know. Adidas are they still? It's actually Adidas.
I know it is, but everyone knows it.
No, it's Adidas because they're German, right? Are they still German? Are they still German? So I have a question on that one. But Nike is an American company. So here's the rub. Okay, Bumpkin. Michelle, let's pretend we actually had a U.S. shoe. So we used to take care of an older guy, and he was an executive at U.S. Shoe, and he said that they had these machines, right? They had the Italian leather shoes, and they had gym shoes, and they had machines that would run these shoes over and over and over again to test the glue and to test the wear on the shoe.
Yeah.
And he said, because I was showing him my gym shoes were kind of peeling apart, and he's like, "You're kidding, those look brand new." And he said, that would not fly with our shoes. Right? Made here in the United States.
He was literally directly involved in making sure
there was a shoe manufacturing
that glue was the highest quality. And he's like, listen, if back when I was doing it, the quality of glue was available, it's available.
Right. And so this was a manufacturing down in downtown Cincinnati. It's gone out of business. Why? because they've offshored things to Bangladesh and Indonesia.
Right.
So what we're doing here is tariffs I want you to forgive me for a second. I want you to, I want you to forgive me forever. Okay. Because I don't think that I had a good grasp on these tariffs. And I guess we all didn't really, and my brain was not putting it all together. So let me explain to you, as you're talking about historic tariffs. Historic tariffs would be awesome.
Yeah.
I love tariffs because we have, and this is how tariffs are supposed to work. We have a manufacturing company, pays good wages, good jobs.
Yeah.
A man could support his family at USU.
Yeah.
They're treated great. You could, I mean, I know this company,
Right.
USU. I remember, I don't know if I remember it, but I know this company. And I remember talking to Jerry about it. People were paid a decent wage. They got benefits. They got retirement. It was like a real company, right? And so what a tariff would do is say, no, Nike, even though you are quote unquote headquartered in the United States because you are a snob and don't want to live in Bangladesh or Indonesia, right?
Okay.
But you're going to go to Indonesia and Bangladesh and Thailand and you're going to outsource these goods. We're going to say no.
Yeah.
We're going to say no. We're going to put a tariff on all shoes. And that if you're going to be making shoes, you make them in the United States. And so we're going to protect U.S. shoe from cheap foreign shoes.
Right.
Right? And that is what a good example of a tariff. Let's say we grew coffee in the United States. And we had a lot of really good coffee growers that, spent a lot of money and time into that. So what we would do is, I'm sorry, Brazil, we're going to protect our American coffee growers from
100%. Yeah.
With all of these kind of universal businesses and these international businesses, tariffs are just now taxes.
Yeah.
And they're not helping the little guy.
They're not a protectionist feature. That's not what they are at all. They're just taxes. Lee, I would like to read some comments when you're done.
Okay, let me just do a couple more here.
Go ahead.
So, for example, a $100 pair of sneakers would rise to $110 to $130.
Wow.
Retailers like Walmart and Target, where Americans frequently buy shoes, are also likely to reflect these increases. Will coffee cost more? Yes. Coffee is likely to cost more for Americans due to Trump's tariffs. The U.S. imports 80% of its coffee beans, primarily from Latin American countries like Brazil, which is going to have a 50% tariff effective rate. Colombia, a 10% reciprocal tariff. Roasted coffee prices already have risen 12.7%, and instant coffee 16% year over year from June of 2025. These tariffs are expected to drive taxes higher. For example, a standard bag of coffee beans or ground coffee at a store like Walmart or Starbucks could see price increases of 10 to 20% or more, depending on the supply chain impact. So when you start looking, and I'm not going to be a panicking. I'm not going to be a panicking.
You just made up a word.
A panicking. Okay. But if everything we buy, and unfortunately, we have to put this into perspective. And I'm doing this live on air. Okay. And I'm going to get to your comments. Guys, we don't make stuff here. We don't make a lot of stuff here. We're consumers. Yeah. Tariffs don't work.
For a consumer
society. Country. Tariffs would work if we're like Brazil and we're exporting coffee and all the fruit and leather, and they're exporting, like they're just boom 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 boom. But we're consuming them.
Yeah.
Okay. So tariffs aren't really going to work. And so if you're thinking on the bottom line, if you're looking at your bottom line, your income is going to need to raise 15 to 20% this year, just to keep what you normally buy at your budget. So let's say you make 50 grand a year, just simple. Okay. If you don't make 10% is going to be 5,000. If you don't make $7,500 more a year this year, and these go in effect, and let's say they're in effect for a year, you will have, you don't buy anything different. It's going to cost you $7,500 to $75.
No, you just have to. We will all have to live below what the standard that we've been living at.
No, what's going
to buy less?
No, but you won't understand. This is worse than the frog in boiling water, right? because these 10 to 20% tariff things, you don't notice it. You don't feel it at 10 to 20%. You don't feel it because you'd only feel it like at the end of the month.
Yeah, that's what I'm
or
saying.
Or the end of 2 months. But then you're like, wait a minute. So do I stop buying the Italian spaghetti? Like, what do I do? Is there an alternative?
Right.
And in a lot of cases, there's not an alternative.
Right. So I'm with Leah, not to freak anybody out, because we're going to pray. We're praying against this, and we're praying that God's people will be protected. And that's what we see throughout the Bible, right? When the plagues came on Egypt, the children of Israel were protected. And there are so many scriptures that we could get into about how God's people will be protected. So I'm not going to say that God's people will be protected on a whole, because it's all about the open doors that you have. But you in particularly, when you seek God, God wants to protect you.
Yeah.
But we have to stay in this place of obedience, of seeking him. And we have to understand that this is a spiritual warfare. We can't just sit back and just talk about it. We can't just say, oh, look, this big thing is happening. And we can't just sit in a shell and hunker down and say, oh my gosh, whatever. This is a spiritual attack and affront on not just America, but on the world. And this is the devil coming to consume, to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And we have to fight it like that. We have to fight it like it is spiritual warfare, because that is exactly what it is. The devil is coming to take and take and take from you. And so we have to fight it at every turn and trust that when we do fight the devil, God will take care of us. That's what Lee and I have been doing this past week, obviously in the last 8 months, but specifically this past week, we're trusting that God protects us when we fight for him. So I do want to get to some of these comments here. Unless you want to go ahead and read that.
One more thing, because this is really.
Go ahead.
This is. We're looking to try to get a new used car, and I'm really looking towards Toyota if I can find
only because we need cars that aren't going to break every 5 seconds.
Chevys, except for like the Tahoes, and Chevy and Ford. I'm sorry, they stink. They stink. And when you do the research, they last 10 years. The Toyotas and the Hondas last 20 years. I mean, it's just, you get to, and the Subarus, you just get so much more out of them. This right here is a tax, supposedly to allow for, better allow for American-made cars. But American-made cars aren't really made in America. So will cars cost more? The tariffs include a 25% levy on imported vehicles and auto parts under Section 232, plus a 10% universal tariff on nearly all imports. Additional 25% tariffs apply to non-USMCA compliant goods from Canada and Mexico, key sources for auto parts and vehicles. This affects both imported cars, Toyota and Honda, and domestic brands, Ford and GM, that rely on imported components. Estimates low-end American cars could rise $2,500 to $5,000, while imported models could increase by $20,000. For example, a $30,000 sedan would jump to $3,200 to $35,000. And then I said, well, what about Toyotas? What is that going to look like? That's going to raise about $3,000. A Toyota Tacoma could increase by $7,500 to $12,000. Now, I want you to think about that. That Trump is going to go rah, rah, rah. Look how much money are in our coffers. But you want to go buy one of the best, longest lasting vehicles that you can buy in the United States, which is a Toyota Tacoma. Okay. Those puppies they're the longest lasting vehicle. Like you look on Consumer Reports and everything. Those are the puppies that are going to last you the longest. Okay. So not only are they going to tax the one or two vehicle manufacturers that are making cars that will last a long time, right? What they're going to do is then, okay, well, maybe I could have afforded it. Maybe I could have got a Toyota before. Maybe I could have bought a Honda before. So, but now I'm going to have to go get this Chevy. And instead I'm going to, a Chevy Equinox or a Chevy whatever they've got going on right now. I want to put this in real terms for you guys. All right. God forbid you buy a Kia, right?
No.
All right. So,
hating on anybody out there. There's got to be a ton of Resistance Chicks viewers that own them because they're everywhere on the road.
Right.
So we don't want to go hating on Kia owners.
No, I'm not hating on the owners, but I'm saying components break. So
yeah, they do.
Having older vehicles, struts go out, sway bars go out, sway bars and links go out. But when you hear from like the Toyota Highlander owners, they're like, never had anything go wrong. You know what I mean? Like those components don't go out, right? But if you look at like some of the Chevys, even the Cadillacs and things
So
like
essentially
that,
what you're getting at is you pay for it over time.
you're going to pay so much. So you're going to pay so much more over time. And so that the tax on Americans, and Trump is going to be like, yo, look at it. We're going to pay down the debt. And it's like, wait a minute. So what you're saying is that if Trump had knocked on your door and said, Michelle, we're going to pay down this debt. Give me $7,500.
Right.
You would have people in arms in the streets.
Sure.
Instead, he's saying, you know what? You Toyota owners who are the smartest people on the planet when it comes to buying cars, okay, or your richer cousins, the Lexus people. I've spent way too much time researching quality cars. Lexuses are the fancy Toyotas. Okay. But anyways, your richer cousins over there, you guys, you're going to pay me the tax. Okay? Yeah. And then he's going to go on television and say, we're paying down the debt. No, you shook down the smart people in America. You shook down the ones who actually could afford
to buy things. You're talking specifically just about Toyotas, but the shakedown
is on all everybody. The things.
And so
I felt like cars were a more substantial understanding, because you're not going to understand it with Italian spaghetti, but you're going to understand it.
You're going to understand it with a lot of things, I think.
But those are the decisions. Not to interrupt, but the last thing I'll say, those are decisions that people are going to make differently. They might still buy the Italian pasta because it's only 15%.
Right, but they're going to buy the American car that's going to fall apart, 100%. So when I'm looking at this and you see, I don't know if you guys noticed when that young man did the video and he said that the U.S. Treasury has gone up by like whatever, right, because of these tariffs. And what it does in that moment, it goes, well, if it's coming in that high, then maybe it's not that big of a deal. Because what they have you believing is that those figures are coming from people outside of the U.S., when technically the money is going from your hand to their hand and then back into the U.S. Treasury, but it was yours to start with. It's not coming from their hand. They aren't eating it. They are not eating this money. We are. The American people are. And so when Trump comes out and says, look at how much the U.S. Treasury is pulling in, it's you and me. It's on the backs of Americans that are buying the imported goods.
Toyota had a $1.3 billion profit hit from tariffs between April and May.
All right, so
but I want you guys to understand something. That right there, Toyota right now said that they're absorbing some costs, and that they might try to reduce fixed costs. Do you know what that means? They're going to make cheaper vehicles.
Yeah,
they're not going to be as quality. These tariffs are going to cost you. You know what? They don't want to make those. I think they pride themselves on making great vehicles. Okay, and I know this isn't a show on vehicles, but I think that if you focus on something, and you unpack the one thing, you can understand. This is what has happened, like with Nike or all these other great brands that were good quality, you know, when we were kids, or maybe even before that. I have to do something. I have to pass this on. If they could have reduced costs, they hire people and pay them lots of money to reduce costs. They would have reduced costs. Okay. Now it's not going to be as good. Okay.
But they can ride for a while, for at least 10 years, they can ride on the backs of the fact that people trust their products.
Yeah.
Until it starts to fall apart. So over on Rumble, Warrior Edge of Time says, business plans remain consistent. The consumer pays the difference. Mm-hmm. Dr. Putnam says, there is no other market to replace the U.S. Barry says, why would I buy American beef when I can go to my next door neighbor's farm and buy locally grown grass-fed beef, lamb, pork, chicken, etc.? Well said. No offense to America. Wicked Psych says, the Amish will need to amp up their production. They make the best anyway. Okay, I love that. Yes.
Come on.
Dr. Putnam says the U.S. was paying high prices to export our goods, so companies move to other countries so they would not have to pay. We didn't charge high tariffs on goods coming in so Americans could get cheap stuff. Trump is trying to flip that. I agree that that's what he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, the infrastructure isn't there. So we don't have quality cars manufacturers. We just don't. Really, we don't. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff coming in. So how long is Trump going to be president? Is this just a bait and switch? Because if this was a long-term deal, okay, and you're saying we want to produce better things in the United States and protect better produce things in the United States, you have to have a bipartisan outlook on this for 10, 15 years so that then people are, quote unquote, so that U.S. citizens are making goods. Unfortunately, one of the other things is Trump is demanding that somehow Europe businesses invest in the United States businesses. I don't need them to. I don't want them to. Why should you?
Yeah.
It is a very strange situation. You guys have to understand. I'm going to play this clip here.
I'm going to finish some comments.
Finish the comments.
Stuart the Brit says, not Kia, American Toyota dealers have a terrible attitude towards their customers. So buy a few years old out of the dealer anyway, out of the dealer warranty. And Gina says, I have a great running, zero problem, great on fuel, 2000 Ford F-350. That's awesome. Those the bigger trucks.
You got the big giant
those
truck.
big trucks actually do outperform. People aren't usually going to buy. We're talking about like the Ford
You have
cars.
an F-350.
F-350 trucks. They are the trucks. I will say the big trucks that the GM makes and Dodge. Those are
the Silverado, the Chevy Silverado
to do well. So that's awesome, Gina. Stuart the Brit says, I've been a mechanic for 30 years. I would not buy any vehicle newer than 2014. Gina says, I agree, but low miles and great maintenance, they are out there. I have several. Alice says, Toyota has engineering and manufacturing plants in the United States, but don't they still have to pay tariffs on that?
What?
If the manufacturing is here, they don't have to pay tariffs? Okay, well, that's helpful. Thank you for that. Over on Getter, hey, Getter, Ursula is definitely the secret member of Cranky Goes to Hollywood. And then they say, because we are making cheap oil. Let me check over here on let's see if this didn't actually come up. Oh, it didn't. I don't know why.
But remember, guys, we were pro-tariff, and now that I'm looking and seeing it break down, and I'm seeing how much things are going to cost for people, this is not a good thing. I don't want to be Chicken Little, but the sky is falling.
All right, what do you guys think? Is the sky falling? Is it not falling? We continue to discuss this and so much more on the rest of our World News program. Thank you for tuning into Resistant Chicks right here on Faith and Freedom TV. We love you. God loves you. God bless. And remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if it's actually the truth.